Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Here is Maria Rosenstock from the European Training Foundation. I have a pleasure to introduce Nijat Asadli to you, who is my guest today. Nijat works for Education Quality Assurance Agency in Azerbaijan, and he's the director of the department that deals with recognition of qualifications. Hello, Nijat, and thank you for being with us. We met to discuss the beginnings of the system of validation of non-formal learning in Azerbaijan. In Azerbaijan, this is a relatively new scheme. The regulation was issued last year, and there was some piloting also last year, and now I think your department is in charge to scale up the system and go beyond this pilot phase. So if I could ask you to present a little bit the system, tell us how it works and what are your plans and challenges at this stage.
Hey, Maria. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share our experience regarding the validation of non-formal and informal learning in Azerbaijan. As you said, I have a very short presentation, and I'm going to ask you to give me the share screen possibility.
Okay, now.
There we go. So why do we think the recognition of prior learning or the verification of non-formal and informal learning is important? We think it gives an opportunity for further education. It supports the lifelong learning process. It gives access to the labor market and increases mobility in the workforce, because any individual, not depending on their age, their position, can always be validated and enter the labor market. And third, obviously, and I think most importantly, it supports the disadvantaged, those who did not have the opportunity to enter the formal learning for various reasons, one of them being financial, as we'll speak about it later in more detail. As you said, the resolution was adopted only last year in 2020. Our organization, Education Quality Assurance Agency, is responsible for the validation processes. So far, we have done the validation of 3 professions, one last year and 2 more this year, and we'll continue to do it. So far, we've issued 31 certificates and 2 diplomas. Basically, a simplest form to show the structure of RPL in Azerbaijan, how we do it is like this. We try to get feedback from the employers or maybe from the field. And then we try to conduct the validation of non-formal and informal learning in those sectors. And then later, after the certification and then the issuance of the diplomas, we connect these people with a government agency for employment under the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection to again connect them with the employers who will be able to give them employment opportunities. What are our plans for this year? Basically, 5 professions overall to do the validation in. As I said, hairdresser, plastic welder, we already conducted, and 3 more we're going to do it. Confectioner, the person who cooks the sweets, mobile phone repairman, and store clerk. We're trying to conduct or issue 100 electronic certificates in validation of non-formal and informal learning, and hopefully until September we're going to introduce the online application for validation processes, so people will be able to easily access the service that we are providing. Some challenges we're facing in this process is basically the most important for now is awareness of the RPL. So people don't know what RPL is, what validation is, and they don't understand what it brings to the table. Also, one more challenge that we're facing is legal constraint. In Azerbaijan, we can issue diplomas only in the first vocational education level, but we're looking forward to change it in the future. We have made the proposals already accordingly. And the last one, and I think one of the most important ones, is financial or monetary challenges. And in some cases, candidates who are interested in validation cannot pay the fee that we require for it. Basically, this is a very brief introduction. If I think we can move forward with some questions and discussions.
Yeah, it's thank you for that. It was very interesting, and we would like to explore a little bit more the topic of funding. So maybe if we could start with the cost. Could you tell us what are the main costs related to validation and who bears them? Who pays for what?
Let's start with the candidates, the people who are interested in the validation process. The only cost they have is the fee that we're asking for the validation. In Azerbaijan, this fee is divided into two separate parts. The first part is for the test part, where people answer questions regarding the profession in a written way. And then the second part is practical tests, where they're assessed for their professional skills in front of the experts. The first part, in terms of euros, is 50 euros, and the second part is 40 euros. The other cost, the costs that we bear, I guess we should also mention them. As the agency, we have to think about the curriculums regarding the professions, because sometimes they have to be updated and they have to be changed. And in order to do that, we need to pay the experts who are conducting these changes. The second cost we face is questions. Experts require funding. They ask some fixed fee for each of the questions. And then the last one is the payment to the commission or to the experts who are conducting the practical tests. So they ask for money for the practical test part of the validation process. Employers part, what are their costs? I guess we can speak about it a little later, because I think it's more broad topic. So when it comes to who bears the costs, now the costs sometimes are paid by the candidates if they are able to pay it. But if they're unable to pay this fee, we're trying to work with the private sector representatives or companies who are interested in our processes, because companies look at this partnership as an opportunity to work with a government agency in Azerbaijan to promote their activity as socially inclined. They look at it as an opportunity for state level advertisement in media channels. So we're trying to cover our costs when regarding the candidates with these companies. But when it comes to the cost of the agency, for now, yes, we do have state budget that was allocated by the state, by the Ministry of Education directly to us. But in the future, we're looking to completely eliminate this and be fully independent from the state budget.
This is very interesting. I liked the example of the sponsorship by the companies and the fact that they can have this advertisement in the public media. I think that is very helpful. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the fee. The fee of 50 plus 40 euro. This is quite a considerably high fee, right, for Azerbaijan. So for certain groups, it could be considered as a barrier, right? Is that the case?
Yeah, especially if we're talking about socially disadvantaged people who are coming to this validation process to be able to enter the workforce and to be able to earn the money. So the initial budget to get certified sometimes can be a challenge for them, yes.
And can we discuss more the role of partnerships? Because you mentioned earlier also that you are planning and entering into partnerships also with Ministry of Labor to deal with this topic. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. In validation of non-formal and informal learning, I think partnerships are the key, especially when it comes to the bigger costs. In our case, every time we conduct a practical test, we need a space, a place where, depending on the profession, the practical aspects of the test can be conducted. And for this, for now, we have to look for, again, for employers, for companies who will be willing to stop their production or stop their service for some period of time, so that we can go in and conduct the test there. And this is kind of inconvenient for them because it's an opportunity cost. So even though they agree to this because of the, as I said, for their interests in advertising part of the deal, this is not very optimal in our opinion. And currently we're in talks with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection in terms that they are building a new center where they will conduct their own training processes for training the unemployed people in our country. So in the future, when they finish the building of that center, we will be able to go in there and conduct all our tests there. So basically this will cut our costs in terms of the agency part of the cost. But in the future, when it comes to the candidate part of the cost, when people can't pay the fees, we're also in talks with the Ministry of Labor to see if they will be willing to cover the expenses for the social disadvantaged part of the people who are interested in our validation schemes. And it's looking like a possibility. And I think not only in Azerbaijan, but in other countries, this could be a solution, at least for the part of the people who are socially disadvantaged. Let's say people with disabilities, people with I'd say unemployed, yeah, people, and who are below the poverty level.
And for that, the Ministry of Labor in Azerbaijan actually has a fund, right? Because there is an employment fund, or yeah.
They have a state allocated budget for especially this program. Up until the 2020, they were only doing it with the vocational education agency in Azerbaijan because the validation wasn't in place. But now we can also do it regarding the validation of non-formal and informal learning.
Yeah. Okay, and with regard also to the plans for the future, you mentioned you would like to become independent from the state funding, and this is quite an ambitious plan, yeah, to be able to self-finance the system from the fees. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? How do you plan to implement it?
We're currently, as you mentioned, we only recently started this process, and as we're conducting more and more tests and we're gathering more and more data, and we're able to analyze what kind of testing scheme and what kind of intervals are the best. And as it's not a surprise, we're trying to do it within the economies of scale. So we announce the professions that we're thinking of conducting the testing, the validation, and we're looking at the number of people who are interested in the validations. And once we have enough people to cover our costs, then we only conduct the testing, so that we don't have to ask for extra budgeting, look for more sponsors, and etc. And in the future, with the introduction of a more systematized online application form, where we will be able to gather data more cleanly and directly from the people who are interested, we will be able to better plan the testing processes. And also, I guess the thing that I mentioned just earlier regarding the place where the testing can be conducted will also help us be independent of the state budget.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting. I really like the use of technology. You mentioned in your presentation the digital certificates with QR codes, and you also mentioned application. And I think this can be very helpful in analyzing data and analyzing the demand, because I guess demand is the biggest challenge in the beginning of the validation system. We are simply not able to assess, to forecast what the demand will be. But also later for monitoring. I think if you have the application, if participants are using it, then you can also really have very good feedback about results and what works, which professions are
for sure. Yeah, for sure. It also it also plays a role of a platform where these people can be shown to the employers so that they can easily find job after the certification processes. Because one thing that we also are looking to do within the scheme of validation of non-formal and informal learning, we're trying to make it a form of a brand where the employer will see that the person who passed through our process is definitely a professional in his or her field.
So you are aiming at a product of a good quality, yes?
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. Yes.
This is really very interesting, and of course we wish you good luck in your endeavors. Thank you very much, Nijat, for being with us. Thank you for your time. All the best.
Thank you. Good luck. Bye-bye.